I'm super excited today to have our very first female guest on the show, Nikita Ramchandani. Wow, where do I even start? Nikita, super interesting. Like me, she is actually a self-proclaimed former fat kid, and she grew up in Hong Kong. She started her career at Morgan Stanley, being a superstar quant trader, and then made a massive, massive jump over to the health and wellness space, actually. And you are now, Nikita, if I'm not mistaken, the founder of Kita Yoga, a yoga studio here in Hong Kong.
Yes, a little boutique yoga studio in Hong Kong.
Well, welcome. Super excited to have you. You have a really wide range of interests and ventures and things you're into. Tell me, where did this story start? Just tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are.
So I initially studied econ and then went on to do a master's in financial math. So that's where the quant side came in. So I wasn't actually trading, but I was on a strategy team. I won't go into detail with that. And then the transition kind of came when I moved to New York to study, and that's where I was working in finance. When I got really into taking care of myself, and the fitness scene is so big there, I started to experiment with lots of different functional movement styles, got really into the nutrition part of things, especially because there's so much on offer there. Kind of fell in love with wellness as a holistic concept and was swayed by it enough to want to shift into the industry completely. So that's kind of where it came from. And then specifically yoga, because I actually started practicing that when I was at college in New York. And there's, again, so many different lineages in New York that you can practice and some amazing instructors. That's kind of where I fell in love with it. And I've been practicing for 10 years now. So
nice. And where are you now? You're in the US right now, right? You're
Yeah, I moved back to New York a few months ago. But I'm currently in Potomac, Maryland, in quarantine. It was so cute. I walked outside today and there was like a herd of, like a whole deer family. They're like hopping around. It was like the cutest thing.
Potomac, Maryland for coronavirus.
Day 47.
Wow.
Almost there.
So you're in New York now, but obviously you still have your business in Hong Kong, which is Kita Yoga. And being somebody that, like you, grew up in Hong Kong as well too, spent a lot of time here, and there's been, I would say, for a large chunk of my adult life living in Hong Kong, I've obviously gotten to see how something like Kita Yoga's made quite a mark in the community.
Glad you think so.
You guys are a small yoga studio, but I think you punch way above your weight in terms of just the brand recognition and people knowing about you. Tell us a little bit about Kita, how it started, why you decided to do it, kind of what makes it unique as well too.
So when I decided that I wanted to make a shift from leaving finance into moving into health and wellness, it was, the initial thought came from the fact that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. And then it was within the space that I had fallen in love with. The idea for, I actually wanted to stay in New York. The idea for Kita came when I was visiting Hong Kong. I was visiting family, and the neighborhood where we are located, we're in what's called Poho, I guess, and Sheung that Taiping Shan area. I had changed so much since I had last come to Hong Kong, and I just saw how there was such a kind of hunger for new concepts to come in, and within the wellness space in Hong Kong, I felt like there was a huge gap. So I decided, instead of starting something up in New York, where I thought that there was there was something lacking in Hong Kong, and I felt like I could offer something niche that fit right in. That's kind of where it came from. And the idea behind Kita was that we didn't want it to just be a space to practice yoga from the physical standpoint, but we bring in elements of pranayama, which is breath work, meditation, and it's a really holistic practice. And as we've been open 3 years now, and as we've been operating, we've really evolved to include in our offering everything from nutrition to corporate wellness. And now we're doing a bunch of retreats this year, which are currently on hold due to the situation. But yeah, the idea was from the beginning to, like, our mission statement is to contribute to the well-being of people. So be that in every facet. So that was the initial desire, and we've just evolved over time to make sure that we bring in all of the ideas that we wanted to incorporate.
Yeah, because I think what struck me most about you guys, especially when I was talking to you before you opened it and you were in that gestation period, if you will, that was what, 3-4 years ago? Maybe 4 years ago now, right?
Yeah, it was 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I was still in finance and was about to leave. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one of the things that really stuck out to me was you were very community focused. And I think that probably, I mean, you can please expand on it more, but I just think that a big part of your guys' success was really building this core community. Like I said, I mean, well, to paint a picture, right? You mentioned Po Hing Fong. For those who've never been to Hong Kong or don't know what Po Hing Fong is, it's this quaint little neighborhood by a small park where you have old ladies doing Tai Chi and playing Mahjong on the public spaces, on the tables there. There's a little basketball court there. There's trees everywhere. Right in front of your yoga studio, there's a massive banyan tree as well too.
Yeah,
It
I
makes
love
it
it.
super unique. And it's in this quiet little nook on the hills, right above the central business district. And so I think that you guys have this vibe to you, and then also the community, because I think there's so many massive chains out there, right? Whether it's your peers of the world, which is kind of like Hong Kong's Equinox. There's so many massive chains out there that just feel very cookie cutter, right?
And that's what I meant by I should have expanded the whole, where I saw the gap, that what I thought Hong Kong was lacking was that huge aspect of emotional connection and just human connection within a space where you practice yoga. When I referred to holistic, it was that whole idea of, and I would say that people come to us, our biggest differentiator is because they just like hanging out with us. Like, our team is a huge part of our success, I think. And I think that was, one of the thing that I've learned along the way is that the most important thing is your team and how well you work together, because they represent your brand. So talent is everything. The way you work together with your team is everything. And you totally hit it right. Like, that's what our brand stands for, community, and whether that's with our clients or with the people that we work with. And we really want that to resonate. And I think that's why it's kind of been really organic with the growth. People come because they like being in the space, and everyone's very like-minded. So
that's what's up. Yeah, you guys do have a great team. Yeah, and it's true. Everybody wants to hang out with you guys. I think it also helps.
Like, I said that and I was like, that's a very biased opinion. But
no, well, it is kind of true. I mean, I think it does help when you visit any kind of an establishment, right? Whether it's fitness related, whether it's hospitality related, where the person who's actually providing you that service is the owner or is the proprietor of it. So that's huge for sure. So just to expand on that now, I mean, health and wellness, you touched upon how in Hong Kong there was this gap in the market for what you're doing. Where are things now with health and wellness in not just Hong Kong, but as you see it, Asia Pacific as a whole? I think that when you started, there was a couple of startups that were more on, let's say, like the platform side, like the Guava Passes of the world, which was really just like a class pass, but out here in Hong Kong and Singapore and whatnot, they actually got acquired by ClassPass, right? But there's obviously been a surge of a lot of new businesses, whether it's tech related or whether it's just the actual provision of some kind of health and wellness service. Um, Paint us a picture of what the APAC health and wellness space is like right now.
I mean, given the current situation or just in general?
I mean, could be everything. Just in general, maybe like I guess how things have been developing over the past several years. Where they are now, how it's maybe different from the U.S. and Europe. Can be anything.
Perfect. Really. Yeah. So I'll start from where my experience starts from like 3.5 years ago, and kind of take it into now. So when I first moved, and I'll speak to Hong Kong first, and then kind of delve into what I know of the region within, of the whole APAC region within health and wellness. So when it comes to Hong Kong, what I noticed was that there were many boutique studios, but what was missing from my perspective was the focus on the community and then again on branding. So I felt like there was no strong mission or strong idea that the small boutique studios were giving off. Everything kind of seems the same in Hong Kong from what I've seen. And I'm speaking specifically to yoga, but I noticed that in the fitness space too, that compared to my experience in New York, where branding is everything for health and wellness. And that's not a bad thing. That's the way that your consumer connects to you. And I felt like that was what was missing in Hong Kong. I also thought that when I first moved to Hong Kong, it was in the real nascent stages, in comparison to what I've seen in New York. I mean, in New York, there is a huge offering to the point where there's just no way that you could try everything. Whereas in Hong Kong, and the population of New York City and Hong Kong is pretty similar. So having said that, our business is hugely catered to the expat community, given that that's kind of where I was coming from. And I'm from New York, so we attract a lot of New Yorkers, and the way that our messaging is and the way that our brand is. So we are servicing only 5% of that Hong Kong population. So that's where, everything's been a learning process. What I was learning in Hong Kong was, is the reason behind this small service offering of these like strong boutique spaces, is it because that there's only a small market for it? And because and I've seen that amongst so many studios that have tried to expand into different regions and haven't done well, because the messaging is so catered to a specific audience. So in terms of scaling your business in Hong Kong, or that is something to be seen, I guess, especially with the situation that we have now, which has the consumer gotten used to being in their own space? And is there even now the validity of having a physical space? Which I think there definitely is, especially in Hong Kong, which is lucky that it's not as bad as we have it here in New York. I mean, in New York, you've seen that so many fitness spaces have had to shut down. And that's, again, where I think this is me diverging completely. I need to go back to health and wellness space. And I think that's where you kind of see the people that survive is the ones that have been focusing on a healthy balance sheet. And I noticed in Hong Kong, I guess overheads are high compared to the rest of the world. You see so many business turning over. And that's why I think for us, especially given my background, the most important thing even going in was we're only in this if, like, you have to be a sustainable business. And so even from the beginning, my business plan was a spreadsheet versus of course we cared about our messaging, but the importance of a healthy cash flow, a healthy balance sheet, especially in this time, is you see that those are the people that are going to survive. I totally diverged there. I feel like I'm just talking whatever's coming.
No, don't worry about it. Like that's that. I mean, we'll just go with the flow, and don't worry about it. I mean, if there's anything that I need to should have push or pull or direct one way or the other.
Yeah, just take me there.
But yeah, I think you touched on a very notable point there, which is having discipline to a lot of these lifestyle businesses, right? I think that when times are good, whether no matter what industry it's in, but I think especially in lifestyle businesses where perhaps the founder or the person who decided to start it up approaches it from a lifestyle or a hobby, sometimes the discipline is lacking, and that's one thing that
Yeah.
I actually want to get into a little bit more with you is about, your previous life and kind of how that's influenced you in your current one. But, to sort of keep it back with Asia Pacific health and wellness, you mentioned that you service only a small percentage of the population in Hong Kong, 5% expat community. Um, can you give me some color on what the 95% are like, and how you see things evolving and changing with regards to, let's just say, your average Hong Konger or your average person in the region, right? Who maybe doesn't come from an international background where they've lived in New York or
Right.
some other place before.
I mean, to be fair, we haven't experimented in the market or even curate our marketing to service that market, right? It might be that we're limiting it if we're not having Chinese marketing material or instructors who can teach in Chinese. So we are limiting the market ourselves there. But then speaking to those local Hong Kong people that do come into our studio, I mean, we have people coming in sometimes from like the new territories,
Wow.
making the trip to come to the studio. So I think that there is something that attracts people. And I think it is that community aspect that we spoke to. So what I am noticing now that there is a greater education, which I hadn't seen before because I grew up in Hong Kong, right? And you would see amongst the local people that there isn't so much of a value. There's no value seen to proper nutrition or even yoga. It's like what is yoga for? And I think there's still a huge lack of awareness as to what the benefit of yoga is. How can I implement this into my life? Why do I need this? And I think now people are more curious. They're more curious, and when they come, they're more accepting and disciplined with the practice to kind of see what it evolves to become. And I think that's just with more people coming into Hong Kong, with globalization in general, people start to actually take the time to decipher or delve into different disciplines. So we've definitely seen that there are some people that come in that really resonate with the practice and seek to understand what it is that we have to offer. So it's not just from a physical standpoint, because what you've seen in the past is, and still exists, is either it's like they're drawn to, I want to get skinny and this is all that it's for. And that's not what we're offering. So you'll see that I see it all the time at other studios with their marketing, like it's called slimming yoga or fat burn yoga. And that is the complete, and I guess that's what people are used to as well, right? That's what I've seen at so many studios, and that's where I see a lot of local population as well. So that's just me drawing a conclusion from a small sample size, right? From the kind of studios that I've seen and the kind of studios that I've been to, and the response I've seen, and more locals definitely in classes that have those type of names. So I definitely think it's an education thing. It's as people become more aware of what mindfulness does for them as well, they're more attracted to the meditation side of things. So I think with greater education over time within that space, people are more interested. I think they just also feel good from a practice, and so giving it time to resonate with them.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you see, let's just say, the health and wellness space sort of, I guess, evolving in this region to become something very similar to how it is in, let's just say, the US, or do you see it taking on an identity of its own? I asked this because I went to Beijing actually about half a year ago for a friend's wedding, and I went to this new hotel there. It was the new, it was from the Shangri-La group. Anyway, they had the most amazing hotel gym fitness center I'd ever seen in my entire life anywhere in the world. Like, this thing was 4 stories. It was in a brand new building. They had, functional fitness area. They had studio areas. They had, cycling, all that. It was literally, I mean, I was mind blown, and I was so surprised that a lot of the people that I saw that were going there were actually, not hotel guests, right? They had marketed this place as, sure, it's in a hotel, but it's basically an entire fitness-centered lifestyle area where I'm assuming most people that go over there, most of their members are actually people who live in Beijing full time, right? And I was just super surprised because, for me, I think you touched upon this earlier. I find that in this part of the world, in places like Hong Kong, Singapore, China for sure, I'm not including Japan, but in a lot of places in Asia, a lot of lifestyle-oriented places, they have all the hardware, right? What I call the hardware. In other words, they're all kitted out. They have all the physical trappings of a very, very, new forward place, but they don't have the software, i.e. the brand, the principles, the vibe, the community, right? That a place like, let's just say, New York does so well.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes with, not as great hardware even, right? Sometimes the
Mm-hmm.
facilities in New York aren't as good, but then
So dingy, but
yeah,
the people are amazing.
the people and the vibe and all that are amazing, right? And so I was very, very surprised when I saw all that because I was thinking, wow, like China, at least mainland China, is way ahead of where I thought it was. And Hong
Mm-hmm.
Kong is usually um, first before mainland China in terms of getting a lot of the new kind of global trends that are happening, especially in the health and wellness space. So yeah, I mean, sorry, long-winded way of saying. I mean, do you see things evolving, or do you see things taking a shape of their own, or becoming more similar to what's on offer in the
I
U.S.?
definitely see things evolving, even from my experience of having been there for 3.5 years. I noticed that over time, I used to go to Pure Gym over the whole 3 years. And when I went there at the beginning, everyone there was so rude and short with their words. And then I noticed over time that they knew everyone's name. They were super kind. So I think that over time, people are understanding the importance of of client retention, which
Yeah,
should have been instilled from the beginning. But the importance of community with clientele, definitely in Hong Kong, I've seen that even with bigger spaces or even smaller spaces, which is very much like what we have in the US. So I've seen that evolve. Do I think it'll be just like New York? I mean, that's hard to say. I think that New York just has way too much. And even in terms of like the nutrition side of things, speaking to lifestyle, definitely seen Hong Kong evolve there as well. When I first came there, I mean, I'm like the New Yorker, I'm like asking for all types of non-dairy milk at any cafe I went to, and they didn't have that because that was just not something that was, I guess, asked for by especially locals. They're just, even if I go to like a cafe now, still I'll notice that like at local cafes they don't do non-dairy milk. And I think again, a city is influenced by the people that come into that space. And I think over time, as we see more movement from the West over into Asia, we'll keep having that influence, and the health and wellness scene will keep evolving to kind of cater to how people are evolving.
yeah.
So I definitely think that as I've seen in the last 3 years, especially in Hong Kong, people are constantly craving novelty,
Right. Yeah.
so I definitely see it moving in that direction. But I think we're still at like the little tiny start of the growth of what's possible.
And hate to ask this, but we live in this Corona time. How do you think Corona and everything else that has been affected by it is going to change or not change?
I
Life.
think, what I see and what I spoke to earlier as well is what I've noticed is that I'll speak to Hong Kong first. I'm trying to like put my thoughts in my head.
Sure.
What I've noticed in Hong Kong is people are feeling safe to go out again. I think that's what's hugely different between where I am now and Hong Kong. But it's how does the consumer now shift, and how does our business model shift to adapt to this kind of new normal? Um, we're going to still keep the online digital side of our business as we reopen, um, because we were lucky it did well, people reacted well to it, and we're going to keep it just to kind of follow to see how the trend evolves. Like, is there going to be a shift in the way it shift in the way people come to the studio? are people going to feel safe to come to a physical space now? I mean, I don't see the issue in Hong Kong because I know that people have started going to restaurants already. People are out in the streets. We are going to be cautious in the way that we operate the studio. We've always been very, very clean within the space, and that's a huge part of our brand as well. But you just don't know. You just don't know how the consumer is going to react. We can adopt to make sure that we forecast for that, like keeping a huge digital presence, maintaining our space and keeping it that we're not going to have full capacity for a while, observe that trend and see how we can then increase the capacity that we take of people. But I think Hong Kong is on the safer side of things. And again, going back to what I was saying, was the most important thing is that to even as a business stay vigilant to how you're managing your cash flow. I mean, that's ingrained in most people anyways, but you see in New York, like you read the news and so many businesses are closing down because they were literally like whatever was coming in was going out. And
Right.
so there was nothing to keep them afloat if they had no volume of business. And that's why so many studios, so many restaurants have closed in the space. And so the service retail industries, I don't know how New York is going to survive that, because if it has to stay closed for the next few months, and then how that shifts. Again, I was reading this morning that, China's opened up, but the consumer sentiment hasn't shifted.
Right.
And especially within the retail space, because, unemployment in the US is at 35% right now. So then does this wellness expense become frivolous? That's another issue that could lead people to cut spending in this space. So I think it's all a little kind of uncertain as anything is, right? But I think Hong Kong is at an advantage for sure. I don't think.
Sorry, go on.
No. I was just, I noticed that as I'm speaking to you, usually I'm so articulate, and now I'm just like.
It's all good. You're on that, you're on that early to bed, early to rise schedule. I've been keeping you up, so don't even skip. We just flow here. Like you mentioned earlier that there were questions about whether people are going to want to still do in-person live sessions, right? Whether it's yoga, exercise, and whatnot. I mean, I think that at least in terms of fitness and health and wellness overall, I think that maybe the fears that everything's going to go digital, for me at least, are a little bit overblown, because beyond the actual, okay, let's get this workout in, or let's get this yoga session in, big part of why people do this is also just to meet up with people and to have that community.
100%. And I think because that's our biggest, right? Yeah, that's actually our unique point. Is not even, I mean, of course we love yoga, but our number one is the connection. And so I think that's what people want when it comes to wellness or lifestyle. It's connection to themselves and to other people. So I don't think that's going to go away, for sure. Not at all. It's more about how long does it take to come back there. And I think Hong Kong is definitely way ahead than we are in the US. And then more than that is who's going to survive till we get there. And so then the question is, what do we have left in the space? Or maybe that gives room to new people to innovate, because there's less competition. In Hong Kong, we can say one thing that we're going to probably benefit from is a lot of the time, the seasonality for us is a huge issue in terms of predicting, how attendance is going to be. And I think that with travel being limited, I feel like everyone's going to want to be, in the space that they love. Yeah, exactly. So I think if anything, part of me is thinking that this might actually help us come back even stronger,
Yeah. Like the rest of the competition kind of gets crushed, and then you guys are the ones left standing.
That, and then people are like so tired of being at home, and they just want to get out and go to the place they love. They can't leave the country, so they're like, this is where I'm gonna be.
Sure. And as a lazy ass person, I can tell you, like, damn, like doing this stuff at home, it's just another easy reason not to get a workout in or something, you know. And so like actually physically going to some place and having people sort of hold you accountable to show up, you know, that's more than half the battle sometimes. um cool. Well, you know, just taking another step back and switching gears up a little bit, I want to get into a little bit about how, you know, you, Nikita, personally got to where you are in terms of, you know, mind space and all the different, I guess, eras of transition for you as a person. You know, you grew up in Hong Kong. That's obviously a unique situation that you and I know pretty well. Unique environment, and then, you know, tell us a little bit about that, and then if you could expand into kind of what your life was like before quitting finance.
Um, so growing up in Hong Kong, I'll skip that bit. I already told you that you introduced me with the self-proclaimed fat kid story. So it wasn't
No,
like,
you and
it
me
wasn't
both.
the
You and
best
me
years of
both.
my life. But yeah, I went to uni in London after that. That was incredible. Did my master's in New York and stayed there.
What did you study?
So when I was at LSE when I did my undergrad, I studied management. And then I went to Columbia to study quantitative finance. So I studied mathematical finance.
Hold
And
on,
then ended up,
before we get there, I just want to say,
yeah.
I probably haven't told this to you live, or I just haven't told this to you ever before, but one of the things that I really respect and admire about you is that you're doing a lot of things that, you know, everybody wants to do, right? In terms of, you have this great lifestyle business, it's your passion, it's your hobby, you love doing it, and you're able to live off
I'm
of
like,
it,
tell me good things about me.
right? But on the other hand, you have this very rock solid foundational training, right? Um, in a pretty sort of hard industry, right? Quantitative finance isn't easy, and so I feel like you. And this is sort of a broad generalization here, but a lot of the things that girls sort of look up to, and that's hard, and that girls, like, you know, really, really sort of want to do, have a yoga studio, all that, you know, um, looking good, feeling good, doing all that, like, you're doing it. And then on the other side, with the stuff that is maybe more in the realm of guys, you like, I mean, you killed it as well too, because that's something, you know, quantitative finance is a very masculine, heavy, dominated industry, and you've more than held your own there. Obviously, I mean, I was in finance as well too, but I never had, you know, the sort of hard chops to do quantitative stuff. And so, yeah, I just wanted to, you know, give you your flowers, you know, while, you know, so you
Thanks.
can hear them. Yeah, so just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, I mean, get into it. Like this is one of the reasons why. Yeah, you know, like I said, I respect and admire you, because you're able to do both of these things that are so disparate and contrasting to each other, and you've done them really well.
Thanks. I hope so. um, I mean, very, very different lifestyles. And actually, I struggled hugely after I left finance, because I feel like my entire kind of way of being, and even now, I still am like this, is very sort of structured, and discipline doesn't go away, because being an entrepreneur is being disciplined, but very structured, very logical.
Mm-hmm.
And so starting a business is, you definitely have, the foundation is something I would never give up. I loved what I did when I worked in finance. So I don't think it was, I left because I didn't like it. I loved what I did. I had an incredible team.
And what specifically were you doing there? I know you were in quantitative trading, but then, I mean, what
Yeah.
was
Well, so I
Morgan
wasn't actually in
Stanley?
trading. I was a quant strategist. So I used
Got
to
it.
build like financial models that would forecast asset class returns, and without going too far into it, I would help build portfolios, and give out investment information to our our clients, to keep it very, I'm like simplifying our terms, but I would build the models that would forecast data to be able to build portfolios and give investment advice. So that's what I used to do in the realm of like portfolio construction and asset allocation. I did that at Morgan Stanley for, how old was I? 21 to 27, like 6 years, 5 years, 5.5 years. Very structured lifestyle. You know, you're working all day long. You know what you're doing because you work for a huge firm. The goals are quite clear. Things are given to you. So it's very sort of like everything makes sense. There's a path. And then when you move into entrepreneurship, there's half intuition, half logic. Obviously, I think one thing that's helped me, given my foundation, is that a lot of my decisions, even now, are data driven, right? So I don't know if that differentiates me from any other yoga studio, but for me, a big part of what we do is like all our strategic decision making is data driven, and that's a huge thing that I look at. We have specific KPI that we look at every month to help drive our strategy for the coming month or year. And it was a huge struggle to shift from being in finance to then starting my own business, because you create what the vision is, you decide what strategy is, you have to assess the market environment to see what direction you're moving in, you create your brand and the way that you communicate with your clients. And so you're kind of responsible for, I mean, I also started my business in a very small organic way. There's so many routes to go when it comes to starting a business, and I decided to do it self-funded. And every way has its pro and con. And then you suddenly are responsible for motivating yourself to move forward. And if you don't do it, nobody else does. So I think that was very different. And then being able to then instill structure within you in this unstructured environment where you have things to do, but then how do you get there? And then how do you structure your day? Whereas before, my day was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm so regimented. It was like, you just know what's, and then here it's like, you have to kind of shift course based on what's happening. And you learn along the way what's important and then how to prioritize. So I think that was a huge shift for me. Even now, this is so uncomfortable, but
yeah,
I'm like, how do I make a routine in my day here and still, grow our business? So
you and me both. Yeah. What was the light that went off? Like, I mean, when you decided that you wanted to give up your former life at Morgan Stanley and wanted to just do a new thing?
Oh, I think I just turned 27, I think, or not even. I was still 26. I just got promoted. And I told myself, this is so good. It sounds ridiculous, but my life felt like I went to the right schools. I got this job and things were great. I was in the city that I loved, and it just felt like suffocating in the sense that,
That's
okay,
it.
but how do you, yeah. I was like, how do you have personal development from here? I felt like I wasn't growing anymore as a person within my career. It was either move in finance to learn something new. But I had this desire to just create on my own. And I was like, if I want to come back to this, I always can. If I stay now, I won't leave. I know that, because you're enticed by the promotion, by moving up in your space. And it was really hard, because once you've invested a certain amount of years in a profession, you want to stay and see it through. And I knew that if I stayed, that I would never leave. And I wanted to create something of my own. And so that was kind of where it came from. After I did it, I don't regret anything ever, because I had another job offer with a private equity firm. And when I quit and had like no money, I was like, well, that was dumb. So I think have a real solid plan if anyone's ever going to do it. Make sure you have enough money to keep you going until until you start making money. I mean, these are things people know, but you end up quitting anyways. And then you're like,
yeah, I mean, my
um,
experience was super similar as well too. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that you were 26, 27. That was exactly my age as well too. I'd been doing, finance for about 5 years and 5, 6 years. And that was it, right? I mean, like everything was fine on paper. But yeah, you kind of you ask yourself, is this it? That's it?
is this
Really?
life? And then what, I just do this for another, all the years of my life, and then
Yeah, yeah,
that's it?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I want to get into a little bit more about what you think, maybe whether it's your past experience or some kind of a personality trait, or what is it about you that gave you that um, courage and the balls to do so. And the reason why I want to ask this is because I think that story or those kinds of narratives have been very, very well documented for a lot of guys. Like you hear a lot of about a lot of guys that do this kind of a thing, but there's a shit ton of women that have done this as well too, and I don't think people know about them. And I have to say, um, I think that the success rate of women who do this is actually much higher than guys.
Like they end up creating successful businesses,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
yeah.
So, what is it specifically about you, Nikita, your personality, or something about your experience up to that point that gave you that confidence, or maybe not even confidence, because everybody's sort of scared at some point, but then
Yeah.
the courage to make that leap.
I don't know. I also feel like a few years ago I was even more relentless than I am now, if that's possible. But I kind of didn't understand how you could not do something. I feel like anyone, if they really, really want to do something, if you're not doing something, it's because you just don't want to, right? I feel like if someone really wants to achieve something and they work on it, they can. Not to say that the business will be successful, but I was like, why can't I? I think the exact thought in my head was, well, but I can do it. Like, what's the barrier?
Yeah.
Yes, if I didn't have the financial means to pursue it, like if I didn't have enough money to move from that position, then I probably wouldn't have done it. But I just had been very calculated about my decision. I knew that in the worst case scenario, what would be. So I kind of assessed all the possible scenarios, especially because that was my old job,
Yeah.
um, all about the hedging. I also thought about how I could, if the business didn't end up working out, what my alternative uses for that space could be. Because I was very impulsive, to be honest, with my decision for signing the lease.
I remember.
I flew into Hong Kong. 3 days later, I signed a lease. I was still jet lagged. I told my parents I quit my job, and then I signed this lease here. My mom was having like a mini heart attack. So that was impulsive, to be honest. But before that, I assessed um, what the best and worst case would be. So strong plan, and also just kind of being relentless about, well, you just get it done kind of thing. But that was also the mentality that I had grown up with, and in the industry that I was in, it was just, you just get it done.
Right.
So it's kind of where I was at. So, because there's nothing stopping you but yourself.
For sure. For
So
sure.
if you really want to do something, because when I'm not doing something, I know why. It's because I don't want to do it.
You don't want
So
to do it. Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
Um, so looking ahead, I mean, what are your plans for Kita? What are your plans for yourself going forward? How are you adjusting and planning about your life and your business and all the different opportunities that may lie ahead, especially given how the world has changed a lot in the past 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I'm actually really positive and excited, even with all of these changes. And I think that's because we as a business have been so resilient over this time. I mean, we adapted very quickly when we saw that in Hong Kong that there were new reported cases. And because we didn't want to be kind of tainted with endangering anyone's health, we closed the studio as soon as we heard that. So that was before the government mandated it. And I think that our community of clients took that very positively. And we were really quick after, within 2 days we went live and we went online. And I was actually kind of surprised as to how much support we got from that. So we had a great reaction. Our clients loved that we closed, and we're taking sort of a lead in this space by doing that, because so many spaces were still open.
Right.
But we were doing it more because we were like, stay home, nourish yourself, stay safe. Like this time is weird, but we want to be here to still connect with you. So within 2 days we were online. And I also think that's hugely in part to the incredible team that I have, because we were all teaching from, all of our own spaces.
Right.
So I think we adopted to this new normal quickly, and then noticing how well that was received by our clients. And then the fact that, I said this so many times, but financially as a company, we've still been resilient over this time. So I'm even more excited to see that the fact that we can get through this, still come out of it stronger, adapt quickly, makes me excited for the future. So we were going to launch our online platform anyways. So that just got kind of pushed forward. So we have been live, and then we're launching our online library of full classes next week.
Nice.
So I'm excited about that. They're just being edited. I bought a mic and I've been like doing voiceovers in our basement. So that comes out next week, and we are going to keep it as a subscription service and keep uploading classes and new content to it. We just got some equipment at the studio to help us do that. We are going to be working on some merchandise. Wow. So we're just in the designing process of it now. So in terms of timeline, we're hoping, we can't really say, a few months for us to have like a new line of our own kind of own, like designed by us at the studio, our own branded stuff that we would wear. So we're really excited about that. And a huge part of this year was going to be our retreats. We hope to still continue to make that one of our endeavors, but let's see, that's kind of on hold now. And we're kind of going to assess the situation as we open and see where that goes. But yeah, online, being digital, staying connected that way. And it's helped us even on expanding globally. It just kind of naturally happens. So clients of ours that have moved have told their friends about it. And so now we have this more global reach, which is exciting.
And what can people check out more of this? It's like you guys' website is kita-yoga.hk?
kita-yoga.com.
kita-yoga.com. Okay.
I feel like a commercial. It's kita-yoga.
Okay, cool. And oh wow, so that's pretty exciting. So you guys are gonna have a subscription service with a bunch of content that people can obviously watch and do yoga.
Yeah, or not do, just like hang out on the couch and pretend you're doing it.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Well, awesome. I mean, thanks so much for sharing all that. I mean, I know we're running up on time here, and it is getting late.
I don't even know what time it is. I'm like gonna put my.
I think we're about an hour in, roughly an hour in.
I knew that I could talk for that long.
Last two quick fire questions. First thing, who's your inspiration?
Damn, you're gonna ask me one of those questions. I'm gonna give you a cheesy answer.
Doesn't matter. I mean, like, the cheesier the better.
It's definitely my parents. Like, yeah, it's a cheesy answer. I mean, my dad's an entrepreneur. He's super ambitious. He's so relentless. Like, the hustle is real. Like, but it's not just with his business. It's with everything that he does in life. Like, that's kind of where I get that whole idea of like, but why can't it be done? It can be done. And then my mom mainly because inspirational in the sense that she gave me great guidance when I was starting my own business. Something she said to me that hugely stuck was, well, just let go of the outcome. because obviously I'm so goal oriented,
Right.
which is strange because she instilled that in me too. But she was like, if you quit your job to do something you love, and now you're getting so caught up in how everything is going to become, just be in the moment and kind of enjoy what you're creating. And that actually, I think, is what steered our business in the right direction. Because when you're so in love with what you're doing, you become so much more involved, and that organically kind of
Yeah,
allows you to become.
process over results. I mean, if
Yeah.
you
Oh my God, it's huge.
don't mess up the process, then the results will come.
Yeah, processes are everything you learn.
And because we're both former fat kids, what's your favorite thing to eat?
Ooh, I love food.
And we all do.
um, Favorite thing to eat. Ooh, I love everything. But you know what? I actually love healthy food now the last few years. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to eat bad things. I just don't. I made this protein smoothie bowl this morning. It was really, really good.
Yeah, would you
I'll
put
say that. I put vanilla whey protein, bit of almond butter, blueberries, ice, half a banana, and then I put some nuts on top. It's so good.
oh,
Nuts and
that's
raisins.
really- wow, I'm gonna have to make one too now.
Yeah, go do it. And then you put like the thingy in the blender, and then it gets all like nice and yeah, it was great.
Well, sweet. Thank you so much, Nikita. I'm gonna let you go to bed and get your booty rest. Um, yeah, it's been fantastic catching up with you and doing this. It's fun.
Yeah, you too. Thanks,
Yeah,
Alex.
I appreciate it, and hopefully
Is it
see you
time to say
sooner than
bye?
later. All right, all right.